You've likely been thinking about taxes all wrong because most people focus on minimizing taxes instead of trying to keep as much money as possible. Everyone talks about Roth conversions like you're moving money from one bucket to the other, but you're making a trade. And here's what I mean. If you convert $100,000 and pay $24,000 in tax, you didn't move $100,000, you moved $76,000. The IRS got the other $24,000. So the real question isn't, should I do Roth conversions? The question you should be asking yourself is paying that tax today going to leave you with more after tax money later or less? I'm Dustin Rudolph, and in this episode of Summit Ascent Retirement, I'm going to show you when Roth conversions are actually smart, when they're a mistake, a clear $1 million portfolio example, and two silent killers people ignore: IRMAA tax surcharges and stealth taxes, because Roth conversions aren't automatic, they're situational. And the goal shouldn't be to pay the least amount of taxes. Your goal really should be to increase the amount of money that you're able to keep. A Roth conversion is a tool. It does one thing: it moves dollars from tax deferred to tax free by triggering taxable income today. But a strategy answers the bigger questions like, what tax bracket am I in today? What tax bracket will I likely be in later? How will it affect my Medicare premiums and Social Security taxation? And what's the after tax outcome? Because retirement taxes don't work in straight lines. They stack up, they overlap, and they trigger thresholds. So when someone says Roths are always better, what they're really saying is, I'm ignoring how retirement income actually works. And that's how good savers make expensive mistakes. So let's make this real with a hypothetical example. We have a client here. Let's call him Mark. Mark is 62 years old, plans to retire at 65. He has $1 million in 401ks and IRAs. He has another $150,000 in a brokerage account, no pension, Social Security to turn on at age 67. And so Mark, here's the common advice: do Roth conversions so you don't get killed by RMDs later on. And this can be great advice. Take a look at this hypothetical income stream for Mark in retirement. His taxes actually go down for a little while after he turns on his Social Security, but as time goes on and his required minimum distributions go on, his taxes increase and IRMAA surcharges kick in. So if you take a look here, this withdrawals for reinvestment in our income laboratory software, this is showing him doing about $190,000 per year in Roth conversions. And so by the time 2030 rolls along, or in 5 years, Mark's all done paying taxes. But what is the long-standing impact of Mark's decision? In this scenario, Mark's spending capacity throughout retirement is $85,000 per year. Not terrible, and he's not going to have income taxes later on. So Mark decides to convert aggressively, converting about $190,000 per year over the next 5 years, filling up his 32% tax bracket. Now let's review what that means. So on $200,000 worth of conversion, Mark's trading $200,000 for $136,000. So what Mark is really doing is pulling tens of thousands of dollars out of his compounding engine and sending it to the IRS today, permanently. That doesn't automatically make it wrong. For some people, it could absolutely be the right decision, but it does make it a trade. And trades have to be evaluated on outcomes, not on slogans. Let me pause you right here, because the next point is where most people get the whole Roth conversion thing wrong. The mistake isn't that Mark did a conversion. The mistake is that Mark did a conversion without proving the conversion was buying him something. Here's what happens later. Mark retires at 65. His spending needs are reasonable. Without aggressive conversions, he likely would have been able to withdraw in a lower tax bracket for years, especially in the window between retirement and Social Security. But now those lower tax years are gone. They were used up by converting money he didn't need to convert yet. And in many real life cases, that decision can cost people $150,000 to $200,000 and more in lost net income or portfolio values. And here's the important part: once you convert, there is no undo button. You can't rewind the tax bill. You can't unpay the IRS. So this has to be intentional. Let's take a look at it from a different view. So instead, we could be intentional about this. So if Mark was a client of ours, we would run him through our tax laboratory. And through our heat map and analysis, we can see that absolutely doing those Roth conversions to the 32% bracket resulted with likely him paying the least amount of taxes over his retirement. However, that's not what we are solving for. We want Mark to have the most after-tax income and after-tax legacy. And by converting to the IRMAA bracket 3, we're able to leave himself and his heirs with much more money. But you can see here through doing Roth conversions through the IRMAA bracket 3, our average tax rate may go up 0.3%. Total taxes increase a little bit, but the amount that Mark's able to keep and leave to his heirs after he's passed on is substantially higher through strategically mapping this out through the rest of his retirement. Now let's talk about some costs that most people don't see coming. IRMAA and stealth taxes. Medicare premiums are income-based. If you cross certain thresholds and your premiums jump, often by thousands per year for a full year at a time. And that's IRMAA. Roth conversions increase income on paper, even if you never spend the money. So you can end up doing a conversion and paying more taxes now, paying more Medicare premiums later. That's not a clear Roth wins story. That's tax stacking, and it doesn't stop there. Conversions can also increase how much of your Social Security becomes taxable, push capital gains into higher tax brackets, reduce or eliminate healthcare subsidies for Medicare. None of these show up as a Roth conversion tax, but they do reduce what you can keep. And again, I don't care what your tax bill is. I care what you can keep. Now, Roth conversions can be a great move when the situation earns it. Here are the most common green light situations. 1, you have a temporary low income years like early in retirement. They can be a golden planning window. Secondly, you have a future RMD problem that will push you into higher brackets later, especially after one spouse passes. 3, you do legacy planning for heirs who are going to be in higher tax brackets. 4, you want future flexibility because Roth dollars can give you control over taxable income later. In those cases, conversions can improve after-tax outcomes, but just as we saw with Mark, having a strategy is going to make a huge difference over your lifetime and the amount of money that you and your heirs are able to keep. But here are some examples when conversions often work against you. You're already in a high tax bracket, and they're likely to be lower later. The conversion triggers Medicare or Social Security cliffs. You're sacrificing too much compounding by paying big taxes too early, or your retirement income is naturally lower than in your working years. In those situations, delaying taxes can be smart. The goal isn't to pay the least taxes. The goal is to end up with the most after-tax money. So here's the takeaway. Roth conversions are not a default setting. They're situational. And before you convert another dollar, you should be able to answer this one question. What am I giving up today, and what am I buying for it? Because if you convert $100,000 and pay $24,000 in taxes, you didn't move $100,000, you moved $76,000. And I don't care what your tax bill is, I care what you can keep. If this was helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Each week, we break down practical ways to increase and protect your after-tax income in retirement. Not hyper products, just clear explanations that will help you make better decisions. And if you want help applying this to your own situation, you can schedule a no-pressure consultation by using the link below or emailing us at info@legacyascent.com.